I wouldn't call that really good celebration, is breaking away and enabling yourself to do something. Oh, some people can say, I'm going to go celebrate, I'm going to grab a beer. No, that ain't,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm going to celebrate 3 years of sobriety with the beer. Come on.
I've known people that done that.
My goodness.
But,
That's that stinking thinking, dude.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
Smelling.
Stinking thinking.
But like...
We're going to move on to the next segment, which actually is kind of a... we don't have a next segment yet. I'm going to let you guys figure that out right now. So, introducing our next segment right now is Zach and Chris. What do you guys got?
Chris.
Anything under the sun.
There's a lot
Anything under the sun. What did you do for your recovery today?
What did I do for my recovery today? Dude, that's a solid question.
I hosted a podcast called Position Recovery for my recovery today.
I showed up for this podcast today. That's what I did for my recovery.
Yeah. I'll start something because this is what's been on my mind lately.
What's on your heart?
It's on that topic of what I do for my recovery today. But I've been learning that this is also why I like Celebrate Recovery, because we celebrate recovery. I love that. I love that idea and that aspect behind it. But on a personal level, God's been talking to me and he's like, hey, and I've been getting it from kind of everywhere. That's how he talks to me in a way. One of the ways he affirms me by showing me it comes from all angles, right? Is that if I would begin to celebrate myself more, I would begin to see more breakthrough in my life. I'm not just talking about recovery. I'm talking about every aspect. Because honestly, again, like I said, we got to move past recovery at some point. We can't just stay in recovery forever. Even though we all have overcome something, we're not all always overcoming the same thing forever. But back to what I was saying, that if I began to just celebrate myself more, that God was like, you're going to see more breakthrough. And I think I've even heard Jeremy say it, Jeremy Gramman, not Jeremy Grogan. But but I began to think like, man, I don't know how to celebrate myself. Like, obviously a lot of people can think, well, I know how to celebrate myself. I'm going to grab me a tub of ice cream. I'm going to go turn on my favorite TV show. And in a way, that's how I always used to celebrate myself. But it's like
along the lines of some self-care.
Yeah, self-care. But it's like, in a way, I wouldn't call that really good celebration, is breaking away and enabling yourself to do something. Oh, some people can say, I'm going to go celebrate, I'm going to grab a beer. No, that ain't,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm going to celebrate 3 years of sobriety with the beer. Come on.
I've known people that done that.
My goodness.
But,
that stinking thinking, dude.
Come
on, man.
Stinking thinking.
But like, it's just like along the lines of the question you asked, what have you done for yourself in your recovery today? It's like, well, how can I begin to celebrate myself? Like what's some ways that I can begin to celebrate myself? Because let's be honest, we all struggle a little bit on our own self-reflection.
Sure.
Like, it's really encouraging and really good for you every day to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, Zach, you are awesome. You're doing an amazing job. You're clean and sober. You have a job. List all the gratitudes. In a way, that's a way of celebrating yourself. In a way, and it's like, man, if I can begin to celebrate myself in every aspect of my life, I can begin to grow. And I know last week when we did Elevate Recovery, in the meetings we have here in this building, I actually addressed that as a question.
Yeah, you did.
What's some ways
you
can begin to celebrate yourself? And I've been doing that in a way all day at work too, because when you keep that in your mind all day, it's like, man, what are some awesome things I'm doing right now? Your attitude changes, especially when you're in a crappy work environment. Your attitude changes.
I'm glad you bring that up, because I thought about this actually, and I haven't talked to you about it since then. But when you started talking about that, I'm thinking, it was theologically challenging me a little bit, and then the Lord was like, okay, you know what? There is a scripture, and it says, "Love your neighbor as yourself." Now, that itself doesn't address this, but here's what does address it. The implication is that you're supposed to love yourself.
Yep.
If I'm supposed to love my neighbor the way that I love myself, then that means I'm supposed to love myself. But guys, just be honest, doesn't that seem a little weird? Like, I know that people listening right now are like, just the thought. I'm not saying that it is weird or not. I'm saying the thought of it, for people who aren't comfortable with it or used to it, the thought of having an affection or this, using the word I love myself, almost seems like blasphemy. But the scripture says, love your neighbor as yourself. And what you're saying is that before you can even love your neighbor, you have to have this appreciation or love of the self. And I would say the way that I would answer that or recognize this, because I'm not there yet totally like you are, but I've gone through that processing, which is the Lord gave me that scripture. I think of it more as celebrating the work and the transformation that I've walked through. And in that sense, I love who I have become.
Yeah.
Right? Not to the degree where I'm like looking in myself in the mirror going, I love myself. And like,
well, that's a little bit arrogant.
you know what I'm saying?
Well, I wouldn't say
But
it's arrogant.
I have.
You can look in the mirror and tell yourself you love yourself.
Yeah, but I don't just go, man, I love myself.
And no, and this is a great conversation because like, I'm just telling you that when I think of it right now, you know, if there's another level, then cool. But right now, what I do is I look back and I go, man, what a work God did. Because, I mean, like in all honesty and all reality and the way that I've lived my life, I should be dead. I deserved to be dead. And God brought this life. No, okay. He took a terrible, miserable pile of flesh and like gave it purpose and breathed a new life into it, if that makes sense.
And then we have to cultivate that, which is to remain in a positive space, which, to love yourself, it is good. Like I do love myself today. I didn't think very highly of myself 2 years ago. You know, it was negative. I was in a negative space. Now I remain and choose to remain in a positive space, regardless of what's happening around me or in my own life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, totally.
We need to celebrate ourselves is to remain joyful. Take hardships as the pathway to peace, man. That's the hard one, you know?
Yeah.
But find joy in everything.
Yeah.
And to always, you know, regardless of where you are in your recovery, I think we should all celebrate milestones, look back at where we used to be and where we are now, and take yourself out to dinner, you and your wife.
Yeah,
and
totally.
You know what I mean? Celebrate the fact that we're not homeless.
Yeah.
We're not high or drunk today. And continue to do that throughout your whole life.
What about somebody who doesn't subscribe to this idea that transformation is possible, but they are working an honest program? They're really working this. What kind of things can they do to celebrate the work that's going on in their life without like being selfish and saying, I did this? Like, here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to kind of make a bridge, if you will, between this is who I was, some things are happening, and things are changing, and it couldn't have been myself, yet maybe they're not honoring God yet. What are some things that they can do to be able to go celebrate that?
Well, I think if you're working a program, you're going to learn a lot about humility and remain humble. That takes away the whole, yes, I did this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you're in recovery, it is a we program. We don't do this. We don't do it alone. We have sponsors. We have relationships with other people in the recovery community, and we stay connected. We're building on those relationships.
Yeah.
You know, keep your ego and your pride. All those things need to, you know, you got to remain humble.
Yeah. There is an aspect to it, though, where you did do it. Like, but not from the willpower sense, because it's like my sponsor didn't get me clean and sober. I got clean and sober from the help of my sponsor, from the help of XYZ, and God was the one that gave me the ability to even do it in the first place.
Absolutely.
But there's a place where, for example, excuse me, where we need to recognize and give credit to ourselves to an extent. Of course, we don't want to start there and end there, where it's like, hey, this is all me, this is all me. Look how awesome I'm doing, look how awesome I'm doing. And to be honest, I was thinking about this while you guys were talking, but it's like, I don't know many people that are real, what we would say, cocky. Because I've known a lot that portray themselves as they're all that and a bag of chips, you know. But those are the people that would never look in the mirror and tell themselves how awesome they are. Yeah. Because those are the exact people who look in the mirror and tell themselves how awful they are. And they're just portraying themselves in public as more than what because they have to try to measure up, right?
Gotcha.
But in a way, that's how I celebrate myself. Is in a way, it's hard though, because I've always struggled with self-image, and if you guys don't know, I have that tattooed on my hand that I love myself. This is a pretty big topic for me. But that all started, where that came from? That didn't come from me going, hey, I need to tell myself I love myself more. It came from me actually verbally forgiving myself.
Gotcha.
Because I bet there's a lot of people out there that are going to watch this, they're going to relate to this. But I found it really easy to forgive other people, but I just wore the weight of all that on myself. And I just blamed myself for everything. I had huge expectations of myself. And so when I was going through recovery and we go through the steps where you're forgiving other people, I was like, dude, done. Checklist. I did it. I did the step. I didn't just skip it. I did it. But it was easy. I was like, cool. Awesome. I'm glad I did that because I don't want to have unforgiveness in my life. And then my wife was like, well, have you ever forgiven yourself? And I'm like, what do you mean? I don't need to do that. It's not on the list,
Yeah, absolutely.
And so she's like, well, I dare you to verbally forgive yourself. And so I did it. And I remember that was probably the biggest breakthrough of my life. I just sat there in a puddle of tears because I was like, oh my gosh.
And folks, we thank you, Zach. We're going to end it right there. We're about out of time. Thank you for checking out this clip from the Position Recovery Podcast. The entire podcast is available on our other channel. There's a link in the description box below, so you can go check it out. The full audio program is available on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Pandora, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Finally, if you'd like access to exclusive members-only content, or maybe you just want to support us in what we're doing financially, head on over to patreon.com/position, where there are a variety of giving levels and one that is perfect for your budget. It's always awesome hanging out with you guys. And remember, many are called, but you are positioned.